But the day after the elections, I wrote something and I posted on my blog, and there's a few excerpts from that I'd like to read. It comes from a little piece that I had called Reimaging a Failed Post-Civil Rights America. And that morning, November 5th, I wrote, "Often I comment that I believe we live in a failed post-civil rights world. And if you disagree and happen to go to church, tell me, how diverse is your worshiping community? If it's actually multiracial and multicultural, you're among the blessed minority of people identified in what has been called the beloved community. If you disagree and you haven't had a dinner guest in your home from a different ethnicity or race in the past week, month, heck, even year, you live in a chosen and unforced segregated social reality. If you disagree, pop open your cell phone and tell me how many of your last 20 calls were to someone from a different race other than you." And look, even though we just selected a black, technically biracial president, it doesn't mean we've leveled the playing field, and it doesn't mean we've realized the ideals of our nation's civil rights movement. And it doesn't mean that non-whites should stop complaining, "Oh man, do people really still want to insinuate that the legitimized racial dissatisfaction in our country is complaining about racism, disparity, or ethnic bias?" What all of this does mean is that we are entering the beginning of a new social consciousness regarding race, one that is long overdue. This new social consciousness will help us all translate what has been our racialized America. I didn't say racist, I said racialized, and the differentiation is important. Racism is obviously an evil that we cannot and will not tolerate. Racialization, however, is a real present danger that we must confess and address. Much has been written on the changing future of our so-called Christian society. In the next Christendom, the coming of global Christianity, Philip Jenkins speculates by the year 2050, only 1 of 5 Christians will be non-Hispanic whites. In a post-Christian West, our faith has to be understood within its global context. Lamin Sanneh, in whose religion is Christianity, The Gospel Beyond the West, writes, "The worldwide Christian resurgence is proof of the religion transcending ethnic, national, and cultural barriers." Sadly, today, our society and the church are still very segregated. In 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. called 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings the most segregated hour in America. How far have we come since 1968? How much further do we need to go? Michael O. Emerson and Christian Smith point out that our religious values and the educational advantages of Western Christians should define us as one of the least segregated communities in the world. But in fact, we're still among the most divided. It's statistically proven that university-educated persons have the least problem with racism. And as Christians, we know Christ broke ethnic divisions with his life and ministry. However, in America today, it is the university-educated who live in the most segregated neighborhoods and who attend churches that consist of the least diverse memberships. If we're not a racist church, we're at least racialized, meaning, according to Emerson and Smith, a society wherein race matters profoundly for differences in life and experiences, life opportunities, and social relationships. It can also be said a society that allocates differential economic, political, social, and even psychological rewards to groups along racial lines that are socially constructed. Further, at its core, contemporary racialization is characterized by separate networks and differential access to valued resources such as health, wealth, and status. So if our lack of multiculturalism is in fact more of a structural issue than an individualized one, then the burden to establish authentic kingdom communities must fall on the dominant consciousness. We must move from a homogeneously congealed, racialized institution to an organic kingdom community and a whole beloved society. And I'm not saying that Obama will usher in this new reality, but I am saying that it's about time we elected a president who's not a white Western male. Hopefully it will provoke within us a refreshed imagination that will awaken us from the stagnated ghetto of racial homogenization that we've isolated ourselves in. Since writing that, I feel like I've not changed or even sort of softened, but I feel like I've gotten more impassioned. And I mean, even tonight, right? Like we look around this room, and for years we've been trying to do this, and we're trying to practice it. And like I said, it's discouraging and it's frustrating, and I feel like we're not finding traction. And so I sort of lament this, and I grieve this, and I feel like the longer we try to do community and we're made flesh, and the harder that this seems to be for us, I feel more and more disqualified to even speak on this. Secondly, I hate to be the white guy talking about multiculturalism. I feel like, for me, part of my journey is coming to terms with being white, being Western, and being a male. And like I said, thankfully there's room in the kingdom for all of us, and me too.